Included in the design of the palace was a high-tech innovation that was being developed by American inventor Thomas Edison, 8,500 miles away in New Jersey. Electricity.
Edison's company that he set up to try and bring electrification to the cities was set up in about 1882, and at that point there were just a few parts of Manhattan that were being electrified. So the fact that this palace had electrification was really modern, really quite unusual, and would have been quite ahead of its time.
At this time, there was no mains electricity available, so like those other buildings in this period that had electricity, the palace had to have its own generator. Electricity that could then be used for driving all sorts of things, but would have mostly been used for lighting as a safer alternative and a slightly brighter alternative to gas.
The electricity also powered the Maharaja's elevators, an extravagant luxury considering the palace is only 3 stories tall.
By the 1890s, elevator technology was fairly well established, and they were used to create high-rise buildings in America, but they were virtually unknown in private residences, and Lakshmi Villa Palace is one of the first residential buildings in the world to have an elevator.
This is an elevator which was way ahead in time. The elevators are installed over here in the property palace, and it had a wooden cabins. If you see the wooden cabins over here, it had got a very nice veneer and a wooden walls, which was been ventilated with ornate grills, and it was been operated with an electric power at that time, which was very unique in those days.
Elevators were actually something that had been in existence for thousands of years. So when you go back to the Roman civilization, for example, they were using lifting platforms which they manually just pulled ropes around pulleys to bring their gladiators from, for example, the basement of the Colosseum up into the fighting arena. The problem with these sorts of lifting platforms was that if the rope snapped, then the platform would just plummet and usually kill the occupants. You know, I'm guessing that's not something they would have wanted in this very opulent 19th century palace.
Elevator technology had moved on thanks to an invention by American industrialist Elisha Otis.
Elisha Otis was a bit of a mechanical tinkerer type person who was working in a factory in New York around the mid-1800s. And he invented a type of braking system which depended on a special type of spring called the wagon spring, so that if the ropes did snap, the spring would kind of kick into gear and latch itself into toothed or ratcheted rails, and basically created a braking system that would stop the lift from plummeting. And he installed these first lifts in the 1860s and 70s in buildings in Manhattan, and so they were becoming all the rage in the late 19th century.